Good afternoon. I know some of y'all just ate. We can do a little bit better than that. Good afternoon. All right. Welcome to Food, Black Farmers, and Conservation. My name is Michael Rogers, and I work with the Nature Conservancy. I actually work in our New York office, but we are a global organization, and we work around the world in 77 different countries. Our mission and our vision, or more so our vision, is that we have a place, a planet, where we have a livable climate, healthy communities, and thriving nature. I joined the organization personally about 3.5 years ago, during 2020, and many people look at me and say, why do you work at the Nature Conservancy? Yes, we are fighting the dual challenge of climate change and biodiversity loss, extremely important work, but I'm going to get real and personal. I joined because we all know in 2020, the social justice movement was raging in our country. And as a black man, I thought, how do I do more for people who look like me? COVID was happening, health disparities, and I'm like, how do I do more? So a friend who worked at the Nature Conservancy called me and asked me to come work with the organization to help us work and focus on our urban conservation work and our equitable conservation work. And that's why I came. Because I want to make sure that communities that look like us are involved and understand the importance of the environment and how the environment is a social issue, how the environment and the work that happens around us affects our health, our well-being, our communities, and I want to make sure that our voices are heard. In New York City, where I live, we have a huge program going on called Forest for All NYC. We're trying to make sure that we have a tree canopy across New York City that's 30%. Right now, it's 22%. And we want to get to 30% by 2035. Why? Well, we know communities that are greener are healthier and cooler. I used to live in East Harlem, and I think it was the summer of 2021, they did a study of the ground temperature in East Harlem compared to the ground temperature in the Upper West Side, which is less than 2 miles away. East Harlem, a community of color. Upper West Side, a predominantly white community that's very leafy and green. The ground temperature was 17 degrees different at that same time. And so we in New York are really focused on how do we make sure that our urban forest is healthy and we have that tree canopy and we are planting trees equitably around the city so that communities of color, whether it's the South Bronx, whether it's Harlem, whether it's in Queens where I live at the moment now, have a healthier, greener community. So I go back to where I started. A livable climate, healthy communities, and thriving nature. Right? So we are appreciative that you came today to learn a little bit more about our organization. As you came in and on the tables, you'll see there's information. We encourage you to plant some hope. You can see we've got the seeds on the table. Plant some hope in your own backyard, in your home, in your community. And thank you for coming. So I'm now going to turn it over to Manikka Bowman, who is our Massachusetts State Director. Manikka.
Thank you. Good day, everyone. Of course, my name is Manikka Bowman, and I am the Executive Director for the Nature Conservancy here in Massachusetts. Welcome to today's gathering. At TNC, as Michael stated, we believe in one future together where we have a livable climate, healthy communities, and people and nature thrive. This mission is what brings us here today to discuss what is possible when visionary leadership interacts with the power of everyday people to transform communities and our connection to food. In Mass, we have had the opportunity to reimagine sustainable oyster farming, which improves water quality for our coastline, as well as advance economic opportunities for family-run farms. The spirit of innovation and lifting the voices of people who care about our planet is why we partnered with the Martha's Vineyard African American Film Festival. Now, allow me to introduce you to the James Page. He is TNC's Chief Global Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer. He leads efforts in 79 countries to address disparities that is exacerbated by climate change. James is a distinguished leader in diversity, equity, and inclusion with a career spanning over 25 years of environmental, healthcare, and the technology sector. I hand it over to James.
Thank you. There we go. Thank you so much, Manikka. Howdy, y'all. How are y'all doing? So my name is James Page. I'm coming to y'all from Nashville, Tennessee. That swim to Martha's Vineyard from Nashville was real, y'all. I am really excited that TNC can be in this place at this time with these people. This is one of the first times we've done something like this. Now, here's one of the things I want y'all to do. I want you to kind of close your eyes a little bit, and I want you to think about a bad sister. Y'all got her in your mind? You got her, sir? On the phone, you got her? Okay, you got a bad sister in mind. Now, I'm going to tell you what a bad sister looks like. Right here. This right here is Germaine Jenkins. She did an incredible documentary talking about, in South Carolina, y'all, what it's like to give back to our community in a bold way that was necessary. So Germaine's going to talk to you, do an introduction about a video we're going to see. She did a 2-hour-long video, which was amazing. We're going to watch 2 10-minute segments, and we're going to talk about them a little bit. But y'all need to understand, for black folks, climate change is real. It's not just this idea of can I go outside and play, but it's this. When we say I can't breathe, what are we talking about? Not just what happened to George Floyd, but do you have the privilege as a black person to go outside, a brown person to go outside and breathe clean air that nourishes your body? That's what it's about. Because when we don't have that, our kiddos get asthma at a disparate rate. We get mortalities and births. We get all of the disparate health outcomes because of our climate. So it's more than just, can I stick my feet in the grass, but can I live the full extent of my life equal to my neighbor? So that's what we're going to be talking about. So with that, I'm going to just give a few words about Germaine. She is an inspiring chef. She's a mother. She's a grandmother. She's an entrepreneur. She can wear pink better than I can. And she's become a good friend, and I want to thank you so much for joining us. And why don't you tell a little bit about yourself, and let's kick off this video.
Okay, thank you so much, James. Thank you, Manikka, and the Nature Conservancy for taking a chance and featuring a film about Fresh Future Farm in North Charleston, South Carolina, where I'm a resident. And it just happened at a mixer that a restaurateur was throwing for us, where I met the director who approached me about filming just 3 minutes for our work. But as soon as we started to dig in, 3 minutes became 30 minutes, and then that became a full feature film. So, and it's been, it's 93 minutes exactly, but we have been filming for the last 6 years. And that's where all of this footage comes from that you'll see today. But I'm now like a lead participant and co-producer. So thank you so much for being here, and I hope you are ready to talk about what we're about to see.
So get your questions ready. You want to give people a little snapshot about what they're going to see in this first 10 minutes?
As Black people, we know what it's like for people to intentionally misunderstand you.
I'm sorry, did you say misunderstand or put their foot on your neck? I didn't hear that right.
They intentionally don't understand what you're saying. So that's what we're going to see and talk about.
Okay, y'all ready? What Germaine was trying to do in South Carolina was there was a community that was sitting, and traditionally we use the word food desert, but you have another term you prefer. Can you tell folks about that a little bit?
Food apartheid, I think, is more descriptive and accurate. Yes.
So the community was sitting in a food apartheid area. That meant that within is it 1 mile or 5 mile
It's
radius?
one, like if you're sitting in the city, it's 1 mile away from like a traditional grocery store where, you can access affordable food that's also culturally relevant.
Absolutely. And so Germaine decided there was a high school that was abandoned, and she took a parcel of land on that high school, about a little bit under an acre, and she decided she was going to give back to the community by creating a community garden that would feed people for affordable rates, fresh foods and vegetables. Give it up to her for doing that. On that property, you had everything from bananas to corn to go ahead.
Well, yeah, don't get me started on corn. That's something we can't grow. Okay. But yeah, no, like bananas, peaches, pears, loquats, all the beautiful greens, no chemicals. And my mom, says this is the produce that we grow tastes like what she ate when she was growing up. So we don't use any chemicals and just focus on ancestral conservation and farming practices.
And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about this, but something that Germaine said that I love is this idea of ancestral muscle memory. I don't know if y'all know what that means, but my great-grandma lived to be 107 years old, died in the 1980s, and she taught us more than probably anyone else that I know and had no education. Tell folks what ancestral muscle memory means and why is it important, Germaine?
Well, what it means to me is that, because I was saying like on that interview that, I went and I thought, dominant culture told me what I needed to do, the work was like the permaculture design certificate. So I went through that training, got the certificate, and then never opened the book. And just went on the property, with like what I'd learned like from indigenous people to start a homestead at my house and applied those same practices on this 0.8 acre lot. So, we were mulching our beds. We are intentionally not using water because it's a finite and expensive resource. So how do we grow with the least inputs possible so that what we can do can be replicated in other places for like little or no money? So that's what that ancestral muscle memory, and what happened, as I started to put my hands in the soil, everything is like these thoughts like, why don't you do this? Like, why don't you do that? Like, look at what you're like jumping over. Like, how you use those row covers when it's cold, and then when you come back, they're blown all over creation. I was jumping over like some Christmas tree, like cuttings that I was going to use for a wreath, and I said, wait, I can just use these as like a breathable cloche on my bed, and that's what I did. And that's how we would protect when we would have those short periods of cold weather. We just used Christmas trees, branches instead. So just an example of the kind of things that we would do.
And I love this idea because it spans everything from the foods we eat to how we take care of ourselves. Like Manikka said, I spent a lot of time in healthcare before I joined the Nature Conservancy. And when I think about ancestral muscle memory, I also think about cures. Cures for like the common cold, if y'all think about it. And all the things your grandma would tell you to do how to take care of a common cold. Everything from, give me one.
Oh, garlic, eating garlic, putting onions in your socks.
In your socks. To what are some
Drink
others?
some water, go to sleep.
See, your grandma was a little different than mine. My grandma was like a hot toddy, and but the fact is that is real knowledge, and that's what Germaine was doing and using to help feed her community. And what happened is that the city decided that the high school was going to go to another. Go ahead.
It's an elementary school.
Elementary,
And
I'm
it's
sorry.
like an elementary school that's been in that neighborhood when it was predominantly white since the 30s.
Yeah.
But
And it was going to go to a large white not-for-profit, and they decided, that not-for-profit decided that they were going to continue to own the work you were doing in a way that was inappropriate. Can you tell folks, that's what the conversation was about. Can you tell folks how it made you feel and what it did to you both from a businesswoman perspective and a health perspective when they did that?
Well, I'm seeing that this is a predominantly black room, so y'all know how that feels, right? You know how it feels. But it was frustrating, and then unlike, because I grew up north, where you could voice your concerns and dissatisfactions and there not be the same kind of like consequences as like trying to do that in the South. Like, because I've said, what Millicent Brown says is the safe thing to do is get, go along to get ahead. And that wasn't working. So like, how do we do something different that incorporates more of our cultural practices and gets and reweaves like community? Because here we are in a space where the air is not necessarily clean. There's like the last grocery store closed 11 years before we opened our grocery store. So what are folks doing, and why are we surprised that this metabolic illness is critical in this space?
Absolutely.
And I used to work for a regional food bank, but it made, no matter how many more millions of pounds they were able to bring in, like the statistics didn't change. So what's the issue? So I think that's part of why we started Fresh Future Farm, and we continue to learn and grow based on what our customer feedback is, and actually listening to our customers. And when they say, like, my doctor, like I get phone calls where one of our customers said, my doctor said I'm pre-diabetes. I say, okay, I know what you like to eat, so let's modify that just enough, and it worked. And those are the kinds of things that we do to support community members fully. And if the only thing that we're doing for you is offering you groceries, then we haven't done everything that we need to support you in that particular neighborhood.
So I love the fact that you're talking about taking care of not just the whole person, but the whole family.
Yes.
And one of the things as well, you were talking to us about the way that people and kids and everyone you said skateboards and everything else. Can you tell folks about how this became a center of gathering within that community?
Well, it was like prime time pre-COVID, but like parents felt safe, like sending their kids with their like money, like SNAP card or whatever, to just come and get like I need a cabbage, I need some garlic, I need some milk, or a milk alternative. Those are all things that we had, and it was just beautiful to see, like a couple kids come in rollerblades saying, I need a cabbage. So, and everybody not knowing the difference between cabbage and lettuce. Those are two different things, but like the heavy thing is the cabbage. So like, and watching them roll back down the street, like that's what like livable communities could look like if we let Black people who live in these spaces, make decisions for each other.
And Germaine, go ahead, give her. And so, Germaine, if you weren't there with Fresh Future Farms, tell me what the community would do regarding that, getting good, healthy foods. What are the alternatives?
The most affordable alternative is going to the Walmart that's 5 minutes away, but if you don't have a car, that's a 2-hour round trip. So you can't buy any, like the affordable thing is the frozen vegetables. They're all thawed by the time you get home. You can't like get a lot of like, fresh, like lean meat, fresh or frozen, because of just the temperature danger zone from here to there is like an issue. So matter of fact, we had one neighbor, and I don't know if it'll appear here, who is legally blind. He said if we had been there a couple years before, then that he would not have that health issue.
Wow. I mean, if food does that to our people. We were at a men's breakfast yesterday, and they were giving an example of how we can pay more attention about what kind of fuel we put in our car and what kind of clothes we put on our body versus what kind of food we put in our systems. And so that's what Germaine is talking about, and that's why I love this. One question before we get to the next part of the video is, if you were to set a table with any historical figure, who would be at the table and what would you serve from the farm?
Fannie Lou Hamer's got to be there.
Anyone else?
George Washington Carver and Booker T. Watley.
Love it. And what would you serve them? And it doesn't have to be strictly from the farm, but what would you serve them and why?
Oh, well, if you're coming to Charleston, we have to have the Charleston thing. You got to have red rice. You got to have, and I will get some Chewies from Daddy's Girl Bakery, which is right around the corner. Get those, like, local Charleston things and just have them, like, taste South Carolina from a space that loves South Carolinians.
I love that. So you want to give people a few words about the next half we're going to see before we jump in. And y'all get ready for some questions after this next half for Germaine as well. But you want to give them a heads up?
I'm more the same.
Okay, I would say DJ, but videographer person. So they put a challenge for you regarding owning the land. And it's a challenge you took seriously. It's an interesting question to ask someone, right? To sit across the room and ask someone, why is it important for you to buy the land versus lease it? You almost, you're shaking your heads in the same way of thinking, isn't that just, that might qualify as a dumb question to some people. But we're going to take it as a serious question, Germaine. And why is it important to buy versus lease the land? And what did you do with the challenge they put in front of you at that point?
We all know why it's important. And what I like to think or know, like if our black land wasn't taken in the first place, we wouldn't need a nonprofit industrial complex. So, or philanthropic industrial complex, as a funder put it, which is probably a more accurate description of what it is. So I also recently read an article that talked about silent rage in black women being a health issue. And I did over this time develop autoimmune issues. I never had high blood pressure, even no matter how juicy I was. My blood pressure was perfect. Picture perfect before I started to do this work. And it wasn't because of the work. It was because, so many times I thought that I had to sit in a room like that to get those, folks that didn't think that I needed to own anything, to asking them for advice and support when we are what we needed the whole time. And just kind of shifting where I put my effort, and I do not put any more effort in explaining anything to anybody. If you don't understand, that's on you. But the challenge was to raise enough money in an X amount of time in order to be able to acquire title, which we did.
So they put that challenge in front of you. We're going to get to some questions. So I think we have here's a mic here and a mic there. So, but have your questions ready. But one of the things is that they said, okay, you could buy it, but it's going to cost you X tens of thousands of dollars. And you initially you said, wow, that's a lot of money. And then you decided that you could do this. And how did you do it, and how did it go?
Well, I gave birth first to some children who are very talented, and even those folks who are not biologically my children who came in to become Fresh Future Farm family. We are just some smart-ass folks. And, my eldest is the one who really, took our, social media campaign work to the next level, all our merchandising, and we, did a Kickstarter campaign to raise the resources and it happened to, be like months before like election time. So there were some like candidates that came on to help promote, what it is that we were doing. Plus, just like over like a Kickstarter campaign, I think is maximum 60 days. So we had like 54 posts all day long, every day for those 54 days. And it just courted a whole bunch of different people. Churches started giving checks when they couldn't do it through Kickstarter. So like what was like a $45,000 goal, in that time frame, we raised $180,000.
Like I said, when you close your eyes and think of a bad sister, I want y'all to think of Germaine, because she took that goal and she leaped over it. Let's get to a question in the room. Dr. Imani.
Hi.
How you doing, sister?
It's good to see you. This is really beautiful. I'm Jocelyn Imani. I work in one of them nonprofits in the industrial complex, and I want to know, at the beginning, when you started, the question I'm asking you for when you started and for the future, besides money, what resources did you need to get settled? So I want to know that question for both when you started and also for where you're trying to go.
That's a wonderful question. Thank you so much. Like what we'd actually, because like those mentors of ours, like I'd approached them for nonprofit support, not only to acquire title to the property, but the other thing that we needed, because all of this we were learning on the job. How do we find like some like grocery store to like allow us to be able to buy our produce at their cost, because we didn't have storage, and just buy it off the shelf at that. That was one. And the other was like giving us the tools to be able to run a store in a way that made a profit. Like, and those are two things that I never ended up getting support from them about. But those are two things that we still need. And I can say, I guess I can predict the future, because I did get another job at another nonprofit, and through that, like found like folks to support like Fresh Future Farm in that way.
James, question in the back here.
Yes. Please tell us your name and your question, please.
Hi, my name is Andre Smith from APX. We're a Bay Area social impact strategy studio. We also make original content and series, and that's why I'm interested, and so happy to be here with you. My question is for Germaine. I love this documentary. I love the shape of it. It's definitely looking like some appeal for some film festivals once it's finished and picture locked. My question for you is, would you be open to featuring your story in episodic series as well? Because there's one I'm working on that I think is like picture perfect for you and your story.
What?
We only have 90 minutes in this film, and there's at least 800 hours of footage. So we've already like discussed that before we even got to, we're at fine cut stage right now. So we've discussed the episodic to follow up to this 90-minute doc, yes.
And Germaine, actually, you had a couple of goals when you came here. Can you tell folks what your goals were when you came to this place and what you wanted to do?
Well, to magnify the work, because, like I said, the thing about South Carolina being a small town and how, like, support can evaporate overnight, I think I'm almost certain that it's going to happen because, again, like I said, these are things that we used to just whisper about, like what happened to me specifically, because it's happened millions of times to other folks. And the people who know, like, what somebody playing in your face looks like is black farmers, right? So how do we get this out in the world in a way that we can get support for Fresh Future Farm and the variations of Fresh Future Farm that start because people see this documentary and know that they can feed themselves. So like that's one of the biggest things. And the other opportunity is just to meet people who are connected in places that we need to know to be able to make that work even more accessible to more people, and that the dignity like flows and that we're able to like employ more people to do this work.
Great. We have a question in back first, then up here.
Hi, I'm LaSonia Berry. You won't believe this, but I'm from Ridgeland, South Carolina.
Hey.
So I'm from about 50 miles south of Charleston.
Yeah.
And sitting here today, I was here for a totally different reason, but I am pretty much in charge now of my family's heirs property. So I'm asking, what advice would you give me? We got 25 acres that's doing nothing in South Carolina. So just want to get some recommendation because this is not my background.
Okay, whose contact information did I just get from The lady right in front of you can help you. Yes, yes. Widget can help you with that.
Okay.
Yeah, because we're gonna get in touch with her as well.
But it's really interesting because one of the things they also talked about are we've had these, and I know y'all have this in you all's families where you've got land that's been passed down, and it gets the title gets all messed up and things of that nature. And how do you navigate that? And it's probably you have to start to do it before you need the land, actually. So how do you make sure that happens as well? Let's go ahead right here to this question.
One quick thing, every person who's a descendant of Africa in South Carolina are from Barbados. They're all from Barbados. The other thing is, what do you want us to do right now? What can we do for you right now? That's one. And the second thing is, what support are you getting from black churches? And what would you give them in terms of direction as to what the black church can do?
What do we need right now? Money, because I'm no longer a director. We have, it's my son and another like 20-something public health degree person who are our co-directors. And we could do more work if we're not like wasting time like trying to like fight these fights. There would be no fights to fight if we were fully resourced, right? And the other thing is finding those people with the skills outside of dominant culture to help us do the work, because we have wasted tens of thousands of dollars like for like a traditional entrepreneur to do what they needed to do and then do it. There were so many obstacles put in front of us because we trusted like dominant culture to do business, and that's like what we found. We got to find those entrepreneurs that are skilled in those areas that we need to come in and hurry up and do the work, because it's been delay after delay after delay after expense to our community's expense. So like money's the first thing, but also like those trained professionals to help us do the work.
Up here.
Yeah. Thank you. Happy Haynes from Denver, Colorado, and on the Trust for Public Land with Dr. Imani. So I have a question for both of you. One, I see the community effort and our young people and our own talent and skills on one hand, philanthropic support, but I'm wondering about the responsibility of local community jurisdictions, how we use our political clout, because we pay taxes, how we use our political clout in cities and states to support these community development efforts. And secondly, James, particularly from the TNC perspective, this is really complex negotiation to help families in these land ownership situations, and how do we, what's our role in helping to connect and bring the resources to the table that our communities need to be able to secure the land and the places that they need?
Yeah. You want to start, Germaine?
How do we help people secure the land in the places that we need? There are like land back programs. Fresh Future Farm is a member of the National Black Food and Justice Alliance, and they just recently like wrapped up a campaign around land defense. So like supporting that. If there's property that's in your family's name that no one necessarily in your family is interested in farming or using, then connecting with young farmers who want space to lease, long-term leases, at like 50 years at least, leases on property, where you can earn enough to be able to pay those taxes and have that property like make money and stay in your family name.
And from TNC's perspective, yes, we do a lot with Land Forward within our organization, but we also, we are learning how to do this work the right way. We are a 75-year-old organization that was set up in the way that many traditional conservation organizations was set up, and that is to by white folks to really actualize their vision. What we're trying to do with the team that we're pulling together now is to make sure that folks understand that conservation is something that's been done for centuries by folks other than white folks. We grew up doing that. We talk about Three Sisters farming, things of that nature. All that is traditional ways of agriculture. So how do we make sure that we're bringing that in within our organization? So we are supporting organizations. One of the things we're doing, we intentionally asked Germaine to come up here today because we believe that telling stories of people who are successfully navigating complex systems in a way that forwards both culture and conservation is something that's important. One of the things that we're also going to be doing is that for this film festival, we're going to start a contest to support stories and videos about conservation and environmentalism so we can keep lifting stories like Germaine's up. So we're going to be providing both monetary and other support to help in the best way we can with some of those things. I think we have time for maybe one other. Go ahead, Germaine. Sorry.
Well, I work for the national organization. We do trainings. I was just in Minnesota, and like what you said we need to do, a young man from Chicago explained in like a few words. Freak it like a black and mild is what we need to do, like with the system. Everything, like how do we like reconfigure this to work for us in a way that doesn't like destroy us in the process. So like that's how I'm trying to do everything. How do we circumvent those like barriers that are put in place for us not to win? So yeah.
Wonderful. Question up front? They'll get it on, I think. Here.
Hello? Oh, perfect. Germaine, thank you for the presentation. I'm an estate planning and real estate attorney in Georgia, so very excited about the topic, especially from a generational standpoint. I could go into a lot of detail. I will be in South Charleston in about a month, so I'm going to specifically come see you. But my question is a technical one in nature. I don't know where we are in the process, but does your nonprofit own the land, or have you created a separate entity to own the land and lease it back to your nonprofit?
Our nonprofit does not own this land, but we're able to do some things, and we are working, and we'll have like a 501c2 like by the end of the year. Yes.
Okay, so I want to thank you all for coming out. This QR code that's up here right now is the film competition where we're going to be giving money to support stories of diverse conservation films, etc. So if you know anyone who's like your Germaine, let us know so we can make sure, or give them this link so that we can make sure that they are a part of this next year with us. This work we're doing is just the beginning. At the Nature Conservancy, like I said, we're a 75-year-old organization, and we're trying to figure out how to do this the right way. And one of the things we have to do is make sure that as we do our work, it is uplifting and battling some of the challenges and the narratives that black and brown folks have been dealing with forever. It's not going to be easy. It's going to take friends and partners like TPL, like Germaine, et cetera, to make sure that we are doing this the right way. So I want to thank you all so much for coming out. I hope you've enjoyed the conversation, the film, the food, the fun, and as we like to end things, family. So thank you all so much. Grab the materials that are around. I think there's still some food left. Oysters. We brought out some oysters that are on the fresh bar. Grab some food. Germaine?
And I do have a mini activation as part of our social impact campaign. What we want to do when the documentary's finished is have the resources that radical black women in film farmers and food entrepreneurs in the South need to continue their work. We also want to make wellness available to those folks, and also in accordance to what you're talking about, teach farmers and food entrepreneurs how to tell their own story so they don't have to wait for a documentary. So in support of that and Fresh Future Farm that needs to be funded, if you, just a drawing from some cookbooks that we self-published for our community, including some of those recipes that I'd mentioned that Fannie Lou Hamer and them will be eating. If you can sign up here, we'll do a drawing and then give these out, and I'll sign them.
So we have some cookbooks. Also, One of the things Germaine said in the video that I loved, she said, obstacles are what black women eat for breakfast. We've got some tea towels, a few of them, of what she said, and we also have a couple of TNC water bottles. So thank you so much.